And welcome to the This Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Marino, editor of This Week in Worcester. This is John Edward Keogh, my partner in Gab, and executive producer of Manage A Media, president of, help me out. I'm blanking.
Hollywood Film Group, baby.
Hollywood Film Group. How do I forget? Welcome, Mr. Keogh. How are you?
I'm very well. As you can see, I'm wearing a hat. This hat, Tom, it came from a movie that I just finished producing. The movie was a short horror movie called Shift, directed by a young lady named Bridget Cannell, who's from Rutland, and had a great crew. Some spectacular people on it. The DP's name is Ben Heald. Patrick Rahal and Ashes Holman Rahal were my co-producers. The actress's name was Hillary Dennis, and Bridget's sister Erin was the creature in it. It was just great. It was fun. It was Cheryl Rosen, local photography legend from the Worcester area, was the behind-the-scenes photographer. Her and Kara Krantz, another local person, and there's a bunch of cool people on the film. There'll be more about this coming out, but anyways, local film production is happening right here in Worcester County, in the city of Worcester, and we're right at the forefront of it, and we're getting some stuff done. It's cool. It was a low budget production, so it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a lot of fun, and it proves that it can be done. Just like what you and I are doing with the newspaper thing, what you've done, what you and Patrick did before getting here. You have built a community newspaper platform, and it shows that it can be done, that people want this kind of stuff, and they want it from local people. It's the real deal. And those are kind of interconnected industries. The film industry and television and social media and the newspapers, we're all kind of part of the same thing. And we're doing it, man. So it was awesome. I can't complain at all. And so I got this souvenir because I'm the producer. I got producer's privilege. Manny will probably steal it from me at some point because he likes that. But yeah.
Enough. Good stuff.
Yeah,
very,
thanks.
Very good stuff. When's that going to be released?
So we finished principal photography today. It goes into the edit period, which is actually usually the longest part of a production, is editing it. And so that's probably going to take, I don't know, anywhere from 2 to 3 months. But its its slated premiere time will probably be at the Dead of Winter Horror Festival, another one of the entities that we are a part of. Dead of Winter Entertainment. I'm the executive producer there as well. So we aim to premiere it at Mechanics Hall in February.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastical, even.
It's almost ridiculous.
So this week we are starting with the city's strategic plan, which was released through the city council agenda for Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were on set here the last couple of days, but what do you think of what you've seen?
I mean, so I read some of it. I read the letter. I don't want to. I mean, I have thoughts about the letter right off the bat, but let's get right into it. It says that the city manager goes out of his way to say right at the very beginning that it's not his plan, and he has it bolded and italicized. It's the entire city's plan, and so right off the bat, he's not telling the truth because it's not the entire city's plan. He didn't talk to the entire city. And I'm not even going to, I understand asking him to talk to all 210,000 residents, that's ridiculous, right? But I'm going to say that I know that he didn't talk to every community group, because there are community groups, community leaders that he didn't speak to. He didn't involve them in the process. And for him to say that he did is just flat out bullshit. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just not true. And generally speaking, I'm not someone who likes to use profanity. But that's just not true. It's not a plan for all people. To make sure it would be a plan for all people, we undertook an extensive community engagement process. When, where, how? Are these the meetings that he's had? Because
Well, there's
extensive.
statistics on this. They have statistics on this.
Let's go. Let's hit
It
those
is
numbers.
on page. It's going to be page 13 of the PDF, page 5 of the document.
I'm there.
Visioning statements and comments, 2,254. Priority goal survey responses over 1,000. District listening sessions 5. Community focus groups 3. Survey responses 156. Working groups, etc. And recommendation votes over 2,000. I mean, so this is the culmination of, I think, Now Next, right? And they did do a lot of. I thought they did a lot of outreach on this. They attempted to. I don't necessarily take issue with the, saying it's the city's plan. I mean, they did some work to do outreach.
Well, I mean, the Now Next plan. So I don't know that I agree that they did a lot of good outreach with that, because a lot of those meetings were held on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Wednesdays in weird places. And most of the folks that go to those meetings, and I'm one of them, I went to one of them, are folks that already are engaged, right? Like you're preaching to the people, or you're talking to the people that are already engaged. I look at these 10 priority goals. Here's what this is just my opinion. I'm not asking anybody to prove it. It's my opinion that it wasn't a full city outreach, because the 10 priority goals to the Now Next one that I went to, and I went to the one that one of the ones that was led by Guillermo Creamer was there, and I went because he invited me personally to come to it, and it was one of the district listening sessions, and it was in last year. I don't remember the exact dates, but I remember all the people getting up on the microphone, and one of the things that they talked about in that time, and it could be prompted because the one that I went to was getting rid of Charter Spectrum. And in these 10 priorities here, right, there's nothing related to that. So there's just right off the bat, there was a bunch of people that got up and said, what are you going to do about cable and internet prices going up and all that stuff? And so that's not necessarily a part of his goal, because I believe that he's going to just accept whatever Spectrum gives him, which is going to be a terrible strategic thing. The other thing about the report, this is something he said a bunch of times, is he has a goal of making Worcester the best managed city in America, right? That's what he says. He wants it to be the best managed city in America. And that word managed is the key word. It's not something that you can necessarily identify to critique, right? Because what does that mean? What does management mean? It could mean a lot of things, right? It could mean it doesn't necessarily mean that like the city uses their budget number right. Is that well managed? Crime statistics are low. Is that well managed? Traffic. Well, we definitely can't talk about that. Like what does that mean? Managed. Like, what does that mean? It's a word that is used to indicate a lot of different things, but it doesn't always have a place to hold on it. So they can shift the goalposts, is what I'm trying to say. And so again, I don't. That makes a lot of sense. And
and that's sort of my point about the whole thing is in a different context though, is there's a lot of interesting and good data about the past. For example, nationally, 60% increase between 2018 and 2022 of overdose deaths, and it shows per 100,000 residents how much over the state average overdose related or opioid related deaths are here in the city, and then says some things about and provide also interestingly something I have not seen before, pills containing fentanyl seized by law enforcement in the U.S. and the upward swing since 2021. Interesting stuff. And then there's a whole list of things that they're going to do strategically to address this issue. And none of them have any benchmarks. None of them have any. There's no commitment of funding. There's no, or estimate of what any of this is going to cost, showing that they're committed to this stuff. And then that's not just the overdose related stuff or the public health and safety stuff. I mean, that's throughout the document. This is what we're trying to achieve. These are the things that we're going to do, and we're going to hope for the best. and I don't think that that's actually their perspective, that they're going to do these things and hope for the best. But just there's, to your point, moving the goalposts, what does success mean? Okay, here's the plan. What does success of this plan mean? That's not defined.
Yeah. And so, let's talk about it. He talks about being like one of the most diverse city governments. Go to page 27 of the document. You can just in fact, put page 27 of the document up on the screen.
We're going to have the echo issue if we do that.
Basically, it's the city manager. I can be quiet, but I just want to show this. Let's talk about diversity and then show this picture, and I'll be quiet.
You want 27?
Mm-hmm. The city manager and his cabinet.
Oh. Now that's a good call.
I'll wait.
Yeah, I have to remember how to do that. We haven't done that in a long time. I only did it once.
Can I do it?
So
hold on.
I don't know. Oh, here it is.
I could have done it too.
I got it. Oh, if I hit that, maybe we don't echo. Say something?
Hello?
Maybe we don't. If I turn the audio off. So yeah.
Very diverse group of people here, huh?
I mean, you have a point, sir.
I mean, so, and all of those folks were either hired by him, chosen by him, or allowed to stay by him. I would even take it to the next level, Tom. He's been in the city as the assistant city manager for 10 years or prior, right? He worked for Ed. He was probably involved in every single one of these folks' transition process or whatever. A lot of them have been long-term employees of the city. So, Jay Fink, who's no longer here, right? Jay left. I'm
not sure when his last day is, but I don't remember.
Soon, so I don't know who's replacing Jay. But and some of those jobs, let's also give him I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Some of these jobs are difficult jobs to fill for a city of our size for a long period of time, and you do need stability in some of them. Like Jay Fink in particular, Public Works almost always needs a person who has a long-term vision for public works and parks and that kind of stuff. So you need someone who's going to be in place for like 10 to 20 years. So it's very possible that position normally is a longer hire. You know what I mean? If we're just being honest here, that's not a very diverse group of cabinets. And so they not only that, they also come from a specific perspective. And so when they offer their perspective, it comes from their background and their biases and what they've learned, their learned behaviors and environments. And so their advice is going to be informed by that. That's natural for any of us, right? And so I just think it's something to think about and talk about that's kind of like on its nose. It's a little bit on the nose, right? But it's right there. So there's that. There's a couple of other things that jump out right away, like the ratings. You have the bond ratings being something that's important, which is, you've heard him talk about this a lot. This is about developers. It's about the city's financing prowess and power and ability, and so this is a lot of developer speak. Again, a lot of
hold on. I'm gonna stop you there.
Okay.
Bond ratings super important for the ability to borrow money. The issue and they've covered this in a city council meeting at I forget when, but it wasn't within the last definitely year. I'm just trying to be conservative there because I don't remember exactly when it was. That they're reaching kind of what is their practical ability to borrow money between the ballpark and the schools that they've done. Schools were obviously extraordinarily expensive to build. So it is important because if their bond rating changes, then that would change their ability to, what they can access for interest rates. So it is really important because they do borrow money for stuff. but their ability to do that, at least for big projects, they still have some wiggle room. But for big projects, I mean, it's starting to get to a point where if they continue to try and borrow money, that bond rating, debt to revenue ratio gets out of whack, and they risk the bond rating being lowered. So it is an important thing.
Sure. But how did they get to the position where they're getting close to tapping out?
Well,
by giving money to developers. I mean, it is what it is, Tom. I mean, they've reduced their ability to raise funds. We just had this conversation over the last 2 weeks. Big time complaint about WPI's money coming off the books with those 2 hotels. I don't know if anybody noticed, but WPI completed the sale, so they didn't. Obviously, they didn't feel like they needed to back down from the city's letter, the secret shadow government letter. But anyways, so the city literally within 2 weeks. By the way, here's the thing: when they announced the TIF for the 351 Main project, how fast was WPI's public release about completing the sale? And it goes back to my argument. WPI was just doing what every other entity in the city already does. They saw that. They might even watched our show and saw that we talked about the fact the city handed out $5 million over here. So why does it matter about the 1.7 or 1.9 over there? You can't have it both ways. You just can't have it both ways. And at this point, I think, what's interesting? I meet a lot of, in the film industry, I'm meeting a lot of younger people, right? So, kids in their early 20s, mid, late 20s, they just got out of film school, like a lot of that. I mean, I end up talking to a lot of those kids. You know what they are all after? Authenticity. And so, but we just had a whole generation of people being inauthentic. And these kids are, in response, in many ways, seeking authenticity, right? That's why you see the what's the highest rated thing on the internet? Live streams. It's live streams, just like this one, right? Manny and I went and did a one in Fitchburg, the Fitchburg Public Market on Thursday, 6,000 plus views, our highest rated thing in it, except for one other video, and it's because they just opened that market. It had a bunch of unique, new businesses, all from local people, and they all shared it to each other. And it grew really fast. That's what this generation is looking for: authenticity. So live video becomes prioritized over recorded stuff, right? Documentaries. I talk about film financing all the time. We're in the golden age of documentaries. By the way, Manny's documentary that he directed is coming out a week from Friday at the Parkview Room. You can get tickets on HollywoodFilmGroup.com. Go to the Dirty Jaron Poetry Show portal to get your tickets. $12 are the tickets. People love documentaries. They're watching them all the time. They want that authentic thing. In the midst of the conflicts that we're seeing overseas, in the Ukraine, in the Middle East, a state of constant conflict, but in particular, the more modern conflict has been driven. The narrative has been driven by social media, right? You're seeing live videos of bombs and hospitals and children's bodies and just horrendous things that you wouldn't never have seen. And so narratives that have been put in place by different organizations, it makes it really hard when you see that on TV, right? And these kids, they all watch TikTok and they watch Instagram. And then at the same time, we see the government trying to impose on those exact things. And so the kids see through this. They see through this. So WPI is full of college kids, and those professors and the administrators of the WPI, they're affected by that. So they saw right through it. They saw through this threat. That's what the letter was. It was a veiled threat at WPI, which, by the way, WPI pays more than all the other schools as far as the voluntary tax thing, right? And so, basically the city was almost shooting themselves in the foot. You're going to talk to the person that doesn't make the most. But anyways, the point is that part of the reason those bond ratings could potentially go down or up is related to the amount of revenue the city can bring in from tax revenue. And we hear it all the time: got to tax the corporations, got to tax the bigger companies. You don't want to tax the regular people, right? We hear that all the time, and we should. You want to tax someone who brings in more, but the city did this to itself. So I don't really care about if the bond rating goes, even though I know it will affect me directly, obviously, affect all of us. but it's the city that did it to itself by doing those deals all over the place. And that's just one small thing. You and I have talked about a bunch more.
Mm-hmm.
Disingenuous. That's how I read it. I read it immediately as disingenuous. This version of the city that doesn't exist in real life.
Outright refusing to do its events at Polar Park is an example of leaving money on the table. Yeah, and so fair enough. It's still the city's ability to borrow money is important, but I get you. Another thing that besides the total lack of forward-looking numbers or any benchmarks or measures for success, in the overdose and substance use disorder, I'm looking at page 37 of the PDF. Under intervention, step up outreach to provide services to individuals with substance use disorder, harm reduction, education and promotion. Like, are the people, either city council or the executive branch at all, besides Dr. Castile, going to take a position on OPCs ever?
Probably not.
The gutlessness is really starting to irritate me. I mean, there is one argument against these things, and that is the population density high enough in Worcester? This would be by far, as far as I'm aware, the place with the lowest population density that one of these centers would be tried. That doesn't seem like a reason not to do it, especially when it's not going to cost the city any money. AIDS Project Worcester's going to do it, and what education and promotion is harm reduction? Are you kidding me? And if you go back a few pages to wherever that was, shows the rate per 100,000 of overdose deaths in Worcester compared to the state, and Worcester is much higher. It is, I believe, still the hardest hit city in the state, and the pussyfooting around, the total gutlessness around having that discussion outside of the Board of Public Health, the Board of Health, which long ago now unanimously voted to support OPCs, and the city just leaving those people in the lurch as they advocate for this thing that will save lives, because that's what they do. They save lives. It's political gutlessness at its finest.
It is, Tom. It just, as I'm sitting here reading the thing, watching you talk about this part, and then you just look at the priorities, you can see what they think is important by the way they order the priorities.
Yes, sir.
Objective number 1, expand the tax base through private investment in housing, commercial, and industrial developments. That's their first priority. And if you look down to 1.4, it says enhance development application review process and encourage greater certainty and predictability for who? Developers, by increasing responsiveness and timely review of development applications. What's one of the biggest complaints in the city of Worcester, man, is when a citizen...
Where are you? What page?
I'm on page 70.
Okay.
Yeah, objective number 1.
This is the economic growth section.
Growth. Yeah, this is how they view economic growth, and this is what I mean about developer speak, about this idea that they're focused on developers. One of the biggest issues in the city of Worcester has been for many, many years responsiveness from city employees, right? From boards and commissions, from the city manager's office themselves, and the confusedness of the forms. We literally just talked about Start on the Street and how that that festival is likely going to go away and probably be replaced by something. Hopefully, Jeff Killebrew and Fam Jam and that group, they're going to take it over, and we're going to have the Worcester Renaissance Project, and it's going to be somebody local who does it, right? But for him to do that is a huge process that's super difficult to navigate, and they literally just moved it from one board or commission to another, and now it's not that group anymore. It's a different group that has to deal with it, and it's difficult to understand. It's really hard. By the way, it was always hard to be able to rent a baseball field or a local park or anything like that. It's so difficult to do unless you know the right person, right? And in this case, they're going to make it easier for developers first, as one of their first priorities, versus making it easier for people. Now, I'm sure there's language somewhere in this document, because he did mention in his letter about making it a more responsive government for people. But in the economic growth arena, the first people they care about are developers. And it is about incentivizing developers. And you don't hear anything about incentivizing local businesses as the first priority. It might be later on, it might be one of the other objectives. But when you write a document, you usually show what your priority is by lining it up in a certain way. And this is what I'm saying. They don't care about the people. They care about developers first. That's their number one priority, is making the big companies money. I don't know what else to tell you, man, because I've seen it my whole life. My entire history with the city of Worcester, it's always been the same way. And this is just a document that proves it even more. I just don't get it. And I haven't even read the whole thing yet. But I'm just going by their numbers that they put it in. Why put that as a priority? Why is that a priority? Why is the development form so difficult? I guess, apparently, according to them. Make it easier for them. We got to make it easier for developers, Tom. Ugh.
I mean, there's something about, but that can be done through permitting or other ways that isn't giving money away. For units that when the developer declines to make any of them, not a single one, affordable, while we're in the middle of an affordability crisis, that just shouldn't be the priority. It just shouldn't.
It should. So now, I mean, if you go down, if you look at other objectives, there's some neighborhood scale commerce stuff. And so it's interesting that one of the strategies is to proactively prevent displacement of existing Worcester-based small businesses. I mean, that hasn't happened in the Canal District at all, right? I mean, come on, and maybe this is a legitimate. He said they did a self-study. By the way, my favorite self-study of all time, and I think I've told this joke many, many times, was the commission that George W. Bush put together to find the vice president, and that he was gonna run with. And the board of that little commission was headed by Dick Cheney. And at the end of the process, Dick Cheney came back and said, the best person to be your vice president is me. And I've always thought about that as my favorite ever example of how government really works in our country, which is like, I'm going to review myself and I'm going to really critique myself, and I'm going to, take a look at everything that needs to be done, but I'm going to pop out exactly what I want. Right. So in the Polar Park, area, local businesses were displaced. We know that. And, we saw the story upon story of older restaurants and different businesses have been displaced. The guy who owns the check cashing place hasn't been displaced. And the reason why is because he owns that land and he never let them, they weren't able to get the paperwork in prior to COVID to use eminent domain to seize his land. If you remember those hearings, so this is 2019, they were going to seize his land and they were unable to do it because of the timing of the documents, right? And then he went to city council and he made, he's a great guy, the old guy. The dad, he made this statement. He's like, I'll let you buy the land for, a budding property equivalencies, right? And so Polar Park was like 180 million or 100 million. And then the two other properties were like 60 million and 80 million. So he basically was saying, hey, figure out the average of the three, give it to me and I'll take it for that little tiny piece of land, which, good for him. But the only reason that was able to happen was because of timing, COVID, and the fact that he owned the land and not just the building. But a lot of those businesses that own the buildings down there, they're gone, right? And they're being replaced, they're being moved, they're being changed out. And we haven't even seen the fullness of this because those 3 apartment buildings in the neighborhood haven't completely come online yet. So what happens when all 3 of those buildings come online? Does it change the businesses? Do you get a different constituency, right? Do you get a bunch of people from Boston that are what is their background? What do they do? What do they like? Are they going to go to the White Eagle, for example, right? The White Eagle, which is a great place, has wrestling. You should go check out that place, right? Are they going to go to the Westerman retail store, which is down there? They sell all kinds of restaurant supplies and stuff like that. Are they going to go to the Worcester Public Market, which has the weirdest hours of a public market of all time? Are they going to shop at those places, or are they going to buy their their pocketbooks and their wallets look for something different, which might replace all those local businesses, right? That's the power of economies of scale. Again, is this real or not? It seems disingenuous to me. And, I know I wasn't involved with the process. And I was on one of the boards and commissions. That's another thing. Both the members of the Cable Commission, when we were on there, and then the Human Rights Commission, we experienced that the city manager's office, still to this day, I have never spoken with the city manager. He wrote a general letter, offering us to return. I will give him credit for that, but he's never explained himself for his public post that he made. He's never apologized for the public post that he made, and he's never really publicly changed his position that he was just going to sign the deal with Spectrum and move forward. And so there's your level of transparency with your boards and commissions. Again, are we really going to be a transparent government? Are you going to right the wrongs? Are you ever going to admit the things that you've done wrong? Like you said, first rule of politics is never admit that you're wrong. And that's exactly why the city is in the position that it is. You have to do that to move forward and mature, to grow. You have to admit your failures and flaws. One of the things that I do, Tom, and let me just, be honest for a minute. I have a hard time with repeated behavior patterns. So if someone does something once and then I forget, and then I actively try to forgive them for that thing, then they do it again. It's harder to forgive, and then they do it again, and then again, and it's harder for me to get past. It's really hard, and I end up getting bitter from that kind of stuff. It's a struggle I have, and I don't know how I overcome it. But what I end up doing is I end up going in my own head and start thinking they're doing it again, even when they're not. Right? It's like
I mean, there's a lot of it. There's a million examples of this. Double speak, or just how the orders from city council are managed, and which ones they return and which ones just sit in the abyss.
Right.
There's I don't want to go down that road. It's kind of a different subject, but there's orders upon orders upon orders, that our elected officials have asked for information for, and they fulfill what they feel like.
We're in a little in the show in a few minutes. We're going to talk about another document that was released this week by some of the local BIPOC groups that might even speak to this thing, in relation to economic development and growth. So were those organizations involved in the creation, crafting of this document when the process of how the ARPA money has been distributed hasn't worked out so much for those organizations and those groups that were directly affected as much by the pandemic as anybody else, right? So I don't know, because this document seems to indicate this bright and happy future for the city of Worcester. Also, I think it indicates to me where the city manager views himself in 2029, which is still the city manager. Does that make sense? Because this is it's a 5-year plan, right? He doesn't see any vision, any future where he is held accountable for anything. That's an important, underlying principle. He thinks he's going to be in place, or at least his plan is going to be in place for 5 years. And I know he didn't call it, he said it's not my plan, but the idea of executing a citywide strategy over a 5-year period of time is something that indicates that there's some kind of momentum for these things in that group of people that are behind the scenes, right? So that indicates to me a little bit of hubris that there won't be any real accountability, right? Are we going to really change, Tom? Without
how is how can you have accountability when when the plan doesn't have any benchmarks, doesn't have that I saw at least. I will admit I did not read every word of it, but I've looked at it for a bit, and it's 94 pages, the PDF.
Here's a great one.
But when you're not defining what success is, and you just say a bunch of things you're going to do, what does that mean?
But there's some things that, the thing is that you would think that they would take the easy benchmarks and go after those, right? There's a couple in here that are little nuggets, like 12.3. So on page 60, one of the strategies is expand access to technology resources, internet access, and training programs. And the partner that they indicate is the library, right? Okay, so Jason Homer already does that. And he's already been doing that at all the branches, right? So you have an executive director in place who's already begun to successfully implement this stuff, and now you're going to work it into the city's strategic vision, and so now you can take credit for something that Jason does. And
I mean, that's
yeah,
that's fine.
that's city
I mean,
speak. That's that kind of municipal government, But so that's an easy win, though, right? So, but the thing is the hard ones, the difficult wins, the difficult things to judge and look at, they're not in here. It's the easy stuff, the layups, that we can actually look at, and that's what it just seems like, a lot of double speak. Again, I'm reading it as we go. You gave it to me just a little bit earlier. I came from a movie set. Anybody who's checking in now, I was making a movie.
well, and the other, on developing residential. So when I did a piece on the WPI thing, and I said in it that this idea that they're going to build market rate housing out of this housing crisis, that they have to do so at a scale, at a rate that is unrealistic. And in hindsight, maybe it was a little loose with the language. I didn't qualify it. Wasn't the main topic. So I was kind of I treated it as a throwaway sentence a little bit, I think, and probably shouldn't have. And somebody took me to task on Twitter for it, and rightfully so. And they produced a graph that kind of showed the change in rent price versus the number of projects actually permitted, right? Permitted to build, not planned, not blah, 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 blah. The HUD only puts out Worcester County numbers, but the Worcester County numbers were not close, is the bottom
Right.
line. And so I think, my sentence kind of still rings true, although it was probably inartfully crafted, in that they're not going to build their way out of this crisis. And there's, again, there are examples that you can statistically analyze this stuff, and then you can come up with some goals that you're seeking to achieve, and then you can build a strategy around how you use tax breaks or whatever, and what you want to use them for. But we don't have any of that. Maybe they do, but they're not going to tell us that. So it's it's a document, and it has a lot of words. I will give it that.
It does, so right away, I jumped a little bit to the government, communications special focus kind of section that they have here. And if you jump all the way to page 80, right away, something that is now is like a catchphrase in all businesses: implement instant messaging capabilities to respond to frequently asked employee questions. What that means in tech speak is a chat bot on the city website. Yep. That's what that means. And so let me tell you this about chatbots. This shows right here's blazing evidence that they don't talk to real people, because the literal number one complaint across consumer agencies in the world, not the country, but the world today, is that chatbots do not respond to the questions that people ask them, and they create another barrier to entry to gaining access to a live human being. What you're seeing here is the love fest with AI that everybody has. They love AI, and AI is going to solve all our problems, and it's going to make everything efficient. I hope city employees see this, because what this is the elimination of secretaries. They're coming for your job, administrative assistants. They're coming for your job, people who answer the phones. And they're coming for
we do that.
Right?
This isn't new information.
It's not a new information, but it is not a good thing for our world. It is not. It shows the devaluing of administration as a skill set. If you're an administrative person, they believe that AI can replace that. And it's been, do you ever remember the small business, Tom? You go to a printer or a plumber, and there's the lady that worked there for years and years and years. She was a secretary.
I get it.
You know that lady?
But that's not the question. But this is I don't know how we get into this wormhole. This is the wrong way to look at this. This is the wrong way to look at this. AI is going to happen. You're not going to stop it. And
Yes,
so
no, that's the worst attitude, and I hate it, and I disagree with it 100%. That's all that AI can. Technology is not inevitable, Tom. It's not
yes,
inevitable.
it is, and you're not
Oh,
going to stop
okay.
it. So the question
I have an
is,
actual piece of evidence literally happening right now to prove that you are wrong about this. I can prove you wrong live on the air, and it's called the Samsung Galaxy phone. Because if technology was inevitable, the so-called iPhone that was going to save everybody's life would not be losing market share. And for 4 consecutive years in a row now, it has lost market share. The indomitable, unstoppable, irreplaceable, perfect instrument of technology has lost market share to a better product. The same thing will happen to AI. AI is just a tool. It is not inevitable. It is something that could be overcome. Something else could come along that is way better. It is a marketing plan and a marketing gimmick. And the chatbot proves it.
you're using the wrong analogy.
People hate chatbots. They hate them.
The proper analogy would be the cell phone, not the Galaxy, but the cell phone as a whole. Are you going to take cell phones out of people's hands? Never, ever will it happen.
Sure, I agree with that. But AI is not a individualized tool. AI is this worldwide movement towards automation, and automation means to replace the creative. And so what you're saying is, why do you think AI is taking over the film industry? I know this. This is where I work, bro. They're trying to get rid of arts and creativity. They're trying to eliminate those kind of things, and they're doing it.
The mysterious
they. It is the mysterious thing. Here's the amazing thing. When AI was launched right after COVID, and I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. Every major organization in the world, everyone, governments, municipalities, businesses, baseball teams, musicians, all of them, all at the same time said, we're in the age of AI and everything's going to be better, all at the same time. Investment banks, vehicles, it's unbelievable at every single level. And if you go on every website now, they will all say, we love AI, we love AI, we love AI. Everybody has an AI implementation strategy. That is a cult, bro. That's what that is. And so I do believe that it can be stopped, and I don't believe it's inevitable because I don't believe that it's a proven tool. There's no evidence that this thing is a workable thing, and the chatbots prove it. Chatbots suck. Everybody agrees with that, including you, Tom. You hate chatbots. They don't work. And why don't they work? And they're based on AI. A human prompted them, and that humans are still subject to failure.
You're still talking.
Yes, sorry.
Chatbots are not all driven by AI. Chatbots have existed long before there was any to the consumer commercialization of AI. Chatbots have existed for years. And no, you're not going to stop the progress of AI. AI isn't a tool. It is a method, really. I mean, it has some technology behind it, but it is how that technology is applied. And it's going to continue to be applied, and it will put people out of jobs and all of that. All true. The question is, what as a society in the United States are we going to do about it? Because those people will now not have anything to do. And a lot of people are not going to have anything to do. And, so how are you going to do about that? If you want to keep a consumer-driven, so-called, even though it's the furthest thing from capitalism in this country, you're going to have to do something about that, because those people, lots of other people, not just those people, won't be needed to do stuff.
I disagree. I don't think it's inevitable. I think it's going to fail, just like all bubbles fail. Bubbles eventually explode, and this bubble is a massive.
Like the internet,
huh?
Like the internet and how that failed.
Well, there's examples of the internet failing. I have
There
a
are.
question. Yeah, there are. I have a question. How's the internet working for folks that are poor or in rural areas? Do we have broadband implementation? How long has the BEAD process been extended? Every 5 years by the federal government. We're still working out how to get internet to places all over the world. It's weird, but in the era of the internet, has equity in economic outcomes increased or decreased?
Well, I mean, all the products that are run on the internet are owned by
Richer and
companies who
poor,
have
Tom?
no obligation to do anything for society. Their whole obligation is to make money.
So the internet has led to a worldwide shift in income, for sure, definitely the largest wealth exchange in the history of the universe, and it has led to the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. So AI is just an extension of that, and it is going to. It is if it is allowed to have this unmitigated rollout. AI is going to lead to the poor getting poorer and the rich getting richer.
Probably, because that's what we do in this country. But that's not the technology's fault. That's the
No,
people of this country who believe this lie that we live in a capitalist society when we live in state capitalism, which is government managed capitalism.
sure. That I agree with you. We live in a subsidized economy. We're not in a real. There's no market here. It's not allowed to float because if it did, it would change. And what I'm telling you, I'm not blaming AI. I'm blaming the implementation of AI by everybody, everybody. And so I'm proud as a at Hollywood Film Group and Dead of Winter Entertainment to never use AI. I'm proud to say it, and I will make films and movies and content for people without using it because that's what I want to do. And I'm just being honest with you. I think that there's a marketplace for that. And I think that it's going to be shown out and borne out over time. That eventually you're going to see that people are going to have a negative pushback on a technology that's implemented forcefully onto every single person that leads to job losses, like you say. But eventually, those skills, administrative skills, accounting skills, all those skills that they're trying to replace right in front of us as in the forefront, those skills are needed skills, Tom. Those are needed skills, and they need people to do those jobs, not robots. They do, and they're gonna, and everybody will realize that in the end. Admin is the most. I can't tell you how valuable it is to have someone who will organize you.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that there's not going to be. You're going to pass a law that stops people from building technology. It's not going to happen.
No.
Anyway,
I'm not saying. I'm not talking about a law. I'm saying that people will stop using it eventually, and I'm going to tell you a great example why. Look at the grades at the colleges. It's already happening because of Chat GPT. Everybody's getting caught cheating. We're in the midst of one of the worst cheating scandals in colleges in the United States in our history because kids are not writing, and because they're not writing because they're not reading, and when they're not reading, they're not learning. Tom, these are things that we're going to have to deal with, whether you want to deal with it or not. But these are facts that are coming down the pipe. If you use AI to write your term paper that you didn't read, you don't know the information. And so then if you take that job, let's say it's, I don't know, pick an industry. How about journalism? Because you own a newspaper, Tom. If a kid has been cheating using Chat GPT to write all his journalism essays and he wants to become a newspaper journalist, you're going to see through that kid in 15 seconds. Yes or no?
You could read a paper written by Chat GPT and probably see through it in about 15 seconds.
That's why AI is not inevitable.
That's stupid to use it for that.
But that's what people use it
Anyway.
for. It makes people lazy. That's why art by individuals and writing by individuals will always be in demand, and administration and organization by individuals will always be in demand because AI makes you lazy. It makes you lazy, and that's it. That's all. It doesn't make you more efficient. It makes you lazy. Personal opinion. Tom doesn't agree with me, and that's completely okay. I still love it.
I mean, the idea that AI is going to make creators go away is ridiculous.
It already is. It already is. Hollywood has it's almost 15,000 layoffs in the past 24 months, all related to AI replacing jobs. All of it.
What did those people do?
They did film editing. They did marketing work. They designed logos. They did artwork. They did all kinds of stuff. Those are the jobs that they're firing people for because they're replacing it by AI. And then it's obvious because you can see it. And then several of those companies, like Lionsgate, for example, having huge negative fallout because they partnered with an AI company. Huge negative fallout because people are going to stop watching their stuff because you can see that it's not real. And
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's not inevitable because it's not good.
Right. So, I mean, it won't be applicable for every application. Like, yeah, there's a whole craze right now. We're going to apply it to everything. It's not going to work in everything.
Oh, it's not. It's so bad. The chatbot thing just aggravates me. Just seeing that right there, I hate it. I hate it. I can't stand it. I can't. I'll be honest with you. I work part time for an organization that recently implemented a chatbot, and it has actually made me think about whether I want to work for them anymore. I'm serious. Like, I don't want to be a part of it. It's that bad.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Sure.
Anyway,
I'm weird.
moving back to the agenda.
Yes. We're way off.
Yes, because you know this is how you take me into wormholes. You say weird things. A letter seeking support by I think started by a group of nonprofits with BIPOC leadership or that serve BIPOC communities has taken exception with the city's most recent delegation of ARPA dollars to its favorite charities, which it does every time it gives out money. And I don't blame them and don't think they're wrong and don't think it's going to change.
Yeah, so I mean, I support them sending out this letter. I understand the focus. I'm not a person of color, so I can't speak to their feelings about the situation. I just want to speak to my friends in this area and tell you that they don't care about you. The city doesn't care about you. The city manager doesn't care about you. The city council doesn't care about you. They don't care. And they're not going to give you this money. I hope that they do give you some of it. But in the end, they're relying on the government to give you the money is never going to work. And we can do it together. Listen, I'm sorry. I know that it's hard to see, but Manny and Leanne and I have built something at Manny J Media, and Tom has built something at This Week in Worcester. It is completely community generated. We have had no help from the government. We have no grants. We have none of that stuff. And
I can't even get a records request filled.
Yes, we are thriving, folks. We really, truly are. We're doing things, and projects are happening. There's a red carpet premiere next Friday of the movie that Manny directed, that I produced, that Leanne edited. I just finished producing a movie today by a local girl who's super, super talented, and that's just 2 projects of the ton that are coming, and that's because I refuse to stop. And I'm willing to help anybody I can help. If you're willing to run with me, I'll run with you, and I have shown that. And so they're not going to do that. The city is not going to do that because they have an agenda. Here's a document that Tom showed you. They have an agenda that they have, and they are focused on the developers, not you. And so I do hope some of that $44 million gets handed out to people. I hope the village gets like $5 million. But I also know that it's very unlikely because the city is the city, and they just don't care about us. They don't care about us. And very much so, if you're not in the group, you're not in the group. And that's just how it is. And that's not a conspiracy theory, Tom. That is just a fact. I have yet to be issued my robe, my special robe with my hood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go that far, but it certainly seemed like
if I see you in a robe, Tom, it's on, buddy.
I'm not going to go that far, but it certainly seemed like a list of very familiar names.
Yeah, sure. They're right. They're 100% right.
That got all the money. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, those same organizations that got all the money, right? I'm going to tell you this right now. They will celebrate diversity, and they will hang things, and they will talk about things, and they will post things and all that kind of stuff. But they're about what they're about. And that's it. It is what it is. You have to believe people when they tell you who they are. They want you. This is who they are. They want to tell you who they are. Believe them. So they're not going to give that money back. They're going to take that money. They're going to use it for their budget, and that's it. So the thing is that how do you go at getting that money in a different way? Sometimes you can't ask for a seat at the table. You got to make your own table. It is what it is.
Yep. So I don't know how much more there is to say about that, but
And I support them holding the city accountable. I support
yep.
the letter that they wrote, and I hope that it gets them something. I really truly do, because I do, but I just don't think I have a negative outlook on the city's response to something like that.
Yeah, they won't respond.
Yeah.
I don't think. I would be surprised if they do. And if they do, it'll be word salad.
Sure.
I mean, it's I don't blame them for being irritated. I don't know that it's. I mean, yeah, it's based on race, I guess, or traits affecting BIPOC community is a better way to put it, because it's old Worcester,
Yeah. Old
handing
Worcester.
doing handouts to each other, and old Worcester's very white. I don't think that they're singling anybody out. I think like we're a little bit past that part. Like, oh, we're not going to give you this because you service certain people. I think it's just the old guard is doing what the old guard does.
Yeah, I think they just don't care. They don't even think about you, is what I'm trying to say. When they say they don't care about people, they just don't think about you because you don't affect their world. They just do what they are always going to do, which is build their organizations and focus on their agendas, and they don't care about other people because they're focused on themselves. And so when you're focused on yourself, you don't pay attention to what other people are doing or saying. And a perfect example is what's happening right here with this thing, right? We have a community of people that watch this show. Manny has a community of people that watches his show, and even as that community grows, it definitely doesn't intersect with the Telegram and Gazette's population, right? It just doesn't. It doesn't. No, they just don't. That's so if you read the Telegram and Gazette on a regular basis, which Tom and I do because that's part of our jobs, generally speaking, that audience that's targeted isn't watching our show right now. They're just not, because they don't care.
Right. Well, I don't care about us, at least.
That's
a reasonable position.
This show on a regular basis, and thank you for those. I see those numbers on TikTok, and I mean on Twitter and on YouTube, and all these little totals and different people in different places. We are very grateful for you. So continue to watch, and hopefully we're talking about stuff that you want us to talk about.
For sure. And then lastly, I just want to cover
the
recent MCAS scores.
Right.
Which weren't they? It was a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah, it was a mixed bag.
Some stuff is down, some stuff is up. Some stuff is mixed. So MCAS scores generally used for general buckets, right? Exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, partially meeting expectations, or not meeting expectations.
Right.
And it's a mixed bag. There's grade 10, 8, 7, 6, down to the third grade level for math, English, and then at some point they get sciences involved. I think the overall kind of takeaway here, because there's a bunch of scores involved, is that some of the English language and arts scores are concerning and moving in the wrong direction. Some of the math scores are moving in the right direction, which is encouraging. So I would call it overall a mixed bag. Which we don't want to see mixed bags. We want to see improvement. I'll give you that. This doesn't change my perspective on the person leading Worcester Public Schools, who I think is by far the most qualified person that's ever been in that position. So, I'm excited to see what happens here over the next couple of years as try to rectify, the learning time lost from COVID and all of that.
So, I agree with you. I don't. It doesn't reflect on Dr. Monterez at all. And I will take a different position. I don't think the MCAS shows you anything. I think other than, what it does, objectively true. Here's an objectively true data point from the MCAS. We have 20 plus years now of data on the MCAS. The MCAS shows that the schools with the best student to teacher ratio and the best resources per student do the best on the MCAS. That's an absolute fact. It's an indisputable fact, and you can see it in particular if you control for schools that always had good resources, and you show when there was an investment by the state or a municipality into a school, you see an increase in scores. And so schools that were under-resourced before, that had an increase in resources, or were under student-teacher ratio and had a better one, you can see the scores go up. So that what the MCAS tells you is that if you have more investment in a school and you give the students more adults to train them, they will do better. That's what it tells you. So that's not something you need a test that is administered state or nationally to figure out. You just need to give them better resources, and you have to invest in the schools. And so the MCAS has just shown us what we already know, in that we disproportionately have resourced certain groups of people, and it falls along a very, very tried and true pattern of behavior in the United States. We give certain schools X amount of dollars and certain schools X amount of teachers, and we give other schools less and less. And if we change the disparity in resources and student to teacher ratio, we will have student outcomes get better. It is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. I mean, and by extension, what you're talking about is smaller towns, especially rich ones, do better.
They do. But even schools within the city of Worcester that have better resources and better student to teacher ratios do better, because they have better resources and better student to teacher
Right.
ratios. Yeah,
But from
really
from a budgetary level, from a budgetary perspective, we don't prioritize education in the city.
We do not. We do not.
The city contributes as few dollars as the state will allow them to contribute to the education system.
Correct. The only way that, and not that the school committee or that the superintendent wouldn't want this, but the only way that the school budget is going to increase is if the state changes the law. I'm just telling you that right now.
And they're obviously not they're obviously not interested in that, because they absolutely screwed every school department in the state this year with their no inflation dollars.
Yeah, they did. There was a no cost of living increases, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we're in a time of the greatest inflation, actual dollar inflation, not inflation rate, in basically runaway inflation for almost 20 years now, where the cost of real goods, not the inflation rate. Now, I'm not going down the ideological path, so you can blame Republicans or Democrats. It is a single univocal voice and focus on real good costs have increased, and real wages have remained stagnant for 40 years. It is what it is.
Yep. Before we get to the final thing, I am going to preview a potential issue that may come up next week. I am supposed to speak with the compliance division of the Massachusetts State Department's Secretary of State, the Massachusetts State Department's Public Records Division later this week.
Ooh.
And if that doesn't go as according to plan, we're going to have a long discussion next week about why it's taken 6 months to get emails related to the dealings between folks in the city on a certain cable contract into the month where that deadline is about to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about it.
I'm excited about it. I know something about this.
And if it doesn't go the way I'd like it to go, we're gonna talk about the lawyer that I'll be looking for, and more importantly, why the city doesn't want to provide data on what is of protection for vulnerable people and how long it takes to serve those orders.
Interesting.
So that's a little preview. It could get spicy next week because I've had enough. When the city manager's hiring yet another communications person to try and manipulate the public into taking his position against the elected city council, and can't, but the law department can't produce public records for 6 to 8 months, something's wrong. And so that tone will continue if that doesn't get rectified this week, because I've absolutely had enough with these people.
I'm with it. I'm with it. Before I ask you,
It's stunning. It's stunning that our former dear governor, who shouldn't be anywhere near managing anything that has anything to do with student athletes, for the love of God, took a victory lap on this law. Oh, we're going to be so transparent, and there's no enforcement mechanism. There's nothing you can do to make them. Nobody will make anybody comply with the law.
that's
So
right.
we have a law that has deadlines, but they don't have to comply. There's no mechanism to enforce the law, so they can just do absolutely whatever they want.
The most transparent governor in the history of Massachusetts, right?
Guy is a scumbag on 100 levels.
Anyways, before we I one more serious note before I ask the question, which everybody is looking forward to. Everybody on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook waited with bated breath for my question that I ask Tom at the end of every week. But I do want to say this on the Enrique Delgado Garcia, the state trooper who passed away in the training facility. I just want to say to the state police, tell us what happened. Tell us what happened. Don't take long with this investigation. Tell us what happened. The family, it has a GoFundMe page. You can look up the mom, and they have a GoFundMe page that's up there for the funeral expenses. I do know that the state police ended up paying for the funeral. I understand that took place.
Jeez,
so good. That's good for them. But I do want to say that tell us what happened and do it fast. Tell us what happened. The guy that they hired to be the investigator, the lawyer that they picked, has a history of representing cops that have been charged with public issues and crimes while working as cops, and so that's a red flag right off the bat.
Yep.
Really big red flag. And I mean, as soon as you heard the name, I was like, whoa, wow. So that's not a good sign at all.
Nope.
And I don't care what anybody says, but I boxed for many years. It's probably part of the reason why I ask you weird questions. I got punched in the head as a kid for many, many years. But I want to say this. I have never heard of a training accident inside of a boxing ring where someone's skull is fractured, their jawbone is fractured, there's multiple teeth punched out of their face in a match where there were gloves on. That makes no sense. It makes no sense, Tom.
And that the investigator has a history of standing on one side of the thin blue line is a red flag. Is right. And it's really disappointing that that's what the Attorney General decided to do. Really disappointing.
And very terrible.
And I'd also like to point out something we talked about last week, by the way. The Massachusetts State Police, on none of its social media channels nor its official press release page, has even acknowledged that man's death.
That's insane. And yet
it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
The crazy thing is the local media, as always, the Worcester Telegram, Mass Live, NBC Boston, they gave WCVB Channel 5, CBS 4, all gave huge credit to the state police funeral outpouring, right? So they all just lined up and just kissed the boots of the state police because they
gotta keep that access, baby.
You know what I mean? And but they won't call them out for the fact that they still don't truly acknowledge this kid. They give credit to the state police.
They've done on their social media. They've done 2 remembrances of people that have died in years past, and there was a funeral also on Saturday of I believe this person died not related to their job. They passed away, and that was acknowledged.
It's just very frustrating. But anyway, what happened? What happened to Enrique Delgado Garcia? What happened? What happened? I want to know. It's on my mind. It's on my heart. It makes me want to do a deep dive. I said this to Leanne the other day. We were walking in Elm Park, and I said to her that deep down in my little cold, dark heart, there's an investigative reporter that still beats there and wants to go on a deep dive, even though I know that this story might maybe they would go after us if we went on this deep dive. But you know what, man? What happened to this kid? I want to know. I want to know what happened to this kid. I mean,
this is the state police now.
Yeah.
I mean, they rally around themselves. They love to aggrandize themselves, but ignore this kid who died in their training facility. It's
So I'm gonna
Anyway,
I'm gonna do something really difficult for you, Tommy, right now, right? I'm gonna change
yep.
the whole game. So today, on the set of Shift, the short, the horror movie that we were filming, one of the jobs as the producer today, because we had a small crew, I had to go pick up the food, in a couple different things, and I picked up some pizza from Parrot Pizza in Holden, right? So which was not too far from Rutland, from the Treasure Valley where we were doing it, the Boy Scouts camp where we were doing the movie. They did a party pizza, and it was well received by the crew. Very, very well received. And so I'm going to put you in the dock, Tom, and ask you, what is your favorite pizza place in the city of Worcester?
So this used to be a really easy answer, really easy, and I'm going to give it anyway. And should the former owners of this place see this, I miss you dearly. Hands down was the Corner Grill up in town. Hands down was my favorite pizza place. Now I don't know. I don't really know. I don't have an easy answer for you, but loved the Corner Grill. Loved it.
I have to say, I forgot about the Corner Grill, but yeah, they had those great smalls. Oh man, they had they really did have the crust down.
I mean, they did the sheet pizza. You go get a large and eat it because it was so thin. You eat the whole thing.
Yeah,
it was a great place to get gluttonous.
So I mean, this is like kind of like there's these two Facebook groups, right? Worcester Eats and Worcester Still Eats, where you see this argument like once a month, and people go for blood if you say one or the other,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna say that right now my favorite pizza place in the city is Sophia's Pizza, Sophia's restaurant, which is on Canterbury Street. And they don't just do pizza; they do calzones, they do subs, they do chicken salads, and all this other stuff. But we've gone there a bunch of times. I've done it for the church. We've gotten food there, for the office, and I have to say they are spectacular. Their food is great. It is delicious. It is diverse, and the pizza. It is a tasty thing. Not to get Dave Portnoy involved because sometimes he's annoying, but it doesn't have a lot of flop, and the cheese is pretty thick, and the sauce is pretty tasty. So it's got a nice zest, good crust, and you can eat a slice. And so I would go check out Sophia's. They're owned by a nice family, and they do not sponsor us, so it's not like that. But although we will take their sponsorship if they would like to. In fact, I would love some Sophia's Pizza sponsorship. That would be fire. Let's tag Sophia's Pizza in the post, right? Let's get them some. Let's get them some love.
And we don't even want you. I mean, in this case, we don't even want money. We'll just take the pizza.
Yeah, I'll just take pizza all day. But also they make great subs there too. Really, really, really delicious subs. A lot of good grilled stuff, and they got everything you can want. It's a big menu, really good, fast service, tasty, and I like the way that they are. It's a small place. It's a takeout place. It's not a place really that you want to go sit down and eat. They only have like 3 or 4 seats, but they're just consistent. I like the way they are. I like the whole family there. I like everybody who works there, and I will root for Sophia's Pizza right now.
Sure, and I'll give more of a shout out than claiming it has the best pizza. Although its food is good, I'm not saying it's not. But Paradise Pizza on James Street, really old family friends. The parents who opened the place of the current owners, obviously their children, were friends with family members. My grandmother 100 years ago was always very nice people, and I worked in that area for a long time and ate there almost daily for way too long. So worth a visit to Paradise Pizza on James Street.
Check out Paradise Pizza. So Sophia's in Paradise. Go eat your heart outs, guys. That was a great way to end, no?
Pizza's good. We like pizza. So on that note, I think we probably screwed up a lot this week, and we will try to screw it up less next week. We do this about 8:30 every Sunday, or at least we try every Sunday. We will post a notice if we're not going to make it, but I think we're in for the long haul. As long as John can get out of his shooting off of set and get here on time, John.
I did okay. I was all right.
So until next